Alex Carter walked slowly into the great hall of the Interstellar Academy, his boots echoing against the polished floor. The hall was massive, built to host thousands of students from across the galaxy. The ceiling stretched high above, decorated with banners from countless worlds. Each banner carried strange symbols, glowing softly, each one representing a species older and far more advanced than humanity. Alex felt small as he entered. Humanity had only joined the galactic community a few years ago, and this was the first time a human had been accepted into the academy. He could feel the weight of every glance that turned his way. Rows of students filled the seats already, their forms alien and strange. Some were tall, with shimmering scales, others had wings folded neatly behind their backs. Some glowed faintly, others whispered in languages Alex could not understand. And yet they all seemed united in one thing, staring at him, the lone human, as if he did not belong here. He adjusted his uniform nervously, searching for an empty place. But each time he walked toward a row, someone shifted, filling the space, or giving him a cold look that clearly meant, "Not here." Alex's throat tightened. He had trained for years to be here. He had studied languages, tactics, and even alien customs. But none of that training helped against the simple truth. No one wanted him near. He kept walking down the central aisle, pretending to be calm, though his hands trembled slightly at his sides. "Just find a seat," he told himself. "It doesn't matter where. You belong here. Don't let them see fear." But inside, he felt the pressure of failure. If he could not even sit down, how could he prove himself in the trials ahead? The hall grew, quieter as he passed. Whispers in alien tongues filled the air. He caught fragments in translation. A human? Too fragile. Why waste space on him? Alex clenched his jaw and kept walking. Finally, near the front, he spotted what looked like an empty seat. Relief surged through him. He took a step forward, only for a tall, scaled alien to suddenly stretch out, spreading its limbs across the empty space, deliberately blocking it. Its golden eyes glared down at him with silent challenge. The message was clear. Not here. Alex froze. A cold wave washed over him. He wanted to argue, to demand respect, but he also knew he was outnumbered and outmatched. He forced himself to look away and turned back to the aisle. For a moment, he thought he might actually have to stand at the back, like a lost child. His chest tightened with frustration. He had come so far only to be humiliated on the very first day. Then, something unexpected happened. A hand, delicate but firm, caught his wrist. Alex spun slightly in surprise. Sitting near the center of the row was a girl unlike any he had seen before. Her features were graceful, her skin faintly shimmering with a silvery glow, as if reflecting hidden light. Her eyes, large and bright, looked directly into his with calm certainty. "Sit here," she said. Her voice was smooth, steady, but carried a quiet strength that silenced the nearby whispers. Alex blinked. He glanced at the seat beside her. It was truly empty. He hesitated, unsure why she would offer this to him. But before he could speak, she tugged lightly at his wrist again, guiding him forward. Whispers rippled through the hall, sharper this time. Why him? "The princess." "She invites the human?" Alex's heart skipped. "Princess?" He sat down slowly, every pair of alien eyes now locked on him. The girl released his wrist and folded her hands neatly on the desk in front of her, as if nothing unusual had happened. Alex swallowed, forcing himself to breathe evenly. He leaned slightly toward her and whispered, "Why?" She turned her head, gracefully, her silvery hair catching the hall's light. "Because no one else would," she answered simply. Then after a pause, she added, "And because I wished it." Her words carried weight, not arrogance, but certainty. The whispers around them grew louder. Alex could feel the tension, the confusion, the disbelief from the other students. The girl, Princess Lysera, as Alex would later learn, kept her gaze forward, calm and unshaken by the attention. It was as though she had made a choice and would not explain it further. Alex sat in silence, his heart still pounding. He had been ready to stand at the back, invisible and unwanted. But now, by some twist of fate, he was sitting at the center, beside someone who clearly mattered. He didn't know if this was luck or the start of something dangerous, but he did know one thing. The moment she grabbed his wrist and told him to sit, everything had changed. Alex looked around the hall once more. Where before he had seen only cold stares, now he saw a storm brewing in those alien eyes. Curiosity, resentment, even anger. He realized this was not just a seat. It was a statement, and whatever it meant, he was now part of it. The whispers did not stop after Alex sat down. In fact, they grew louder, spreading across the great hall like ripples in a pond. Every alien student seemed to have an opinion, though few dared to speak openly. Alex sat stiffly in his seat, his hands pressed against the smooth desk. He could feel dozens of eyes watching him, studying him as if he were some strange animal brought in for display. The girl beside him, however, seemed completely unbothered. Her posture was calm, her expression steady, and her silver hair shimmered softly under the lights. She faced forward, ignoring the growing storm of whispers. Finally, Alex leaned slightly toward her. "Everyone is staring," he whispered. "I know," she replied, her voice quiet but clear. She did not even glance at him when she spoke. "Why did you ask me to sit?" Alex asked, his voice low, almost hesitant. This time she turned her head. Her eyes, bright and almost luminous, met his. For a moment, Alex felt as if she could see right through him, past the nervous exterior, into the depths of his thoughts. "Because I wanted to," she said simply, "and because it was right." Her words were calm, but they carried a strength that made Alex pause. Before he could ask more, a tall instructor entered the hall. His figure was towering, his uniform a deep shade of crimson. The murmurs fell, silent as he stepped forward to the central podium. "Students of the Interstellar Academy," the instructor's voice echoed, powerful and commanding. "Today marks the beginning of your training. You have come from across the stars, from dozens of worlds, but here you will be tested not as members of your own kind, but as equals. The weak will fail. The strong will rise." A heavy silence followed. Alex felt the words settle in his chest. The weak will fail. He knew that was what many here expected of him. The instructor's eyes scanned the room, sharp and piercing. For a moment they landed on Alex, and the human felt a chill. Then the instructor moved on, his gaze returning to the crowd at large. "You will learn discipline," he continued. "You will face trials that push you beyond your limits. You will learn what it means to fight side by side or to fall alone." The instructor's speech stirred excitement in some students, fear in others. Alex could sense the tension in the air, as if every person here was preparing themselves for something great and terrible at the same time. Beside him, the silver-haired girl remained composed, her eyes never leaving the instructor. When the speech ended, the students were dismissed for the day, free to explore the academy grounds. The great hall filled with movement as hundreds of aliens stood, stretching their limbs, speaking in dozens of languages. Alex stood as well, unsure of where to go. He felt like a small boat drifting in a stormy sea, but once again the girl beside him made the decision for him. She rose gracefully, then looked at him. "Walk with me." It was not a request. Alex blinked. Sure." They left the hall together, moving through the wide corridors of the academy. The walls were lined with alien symbols that glowed faintly, giving the passageways an almost otherworldly beauty. Alex glanced at her. "So, you're a princess?" She did not look at him. "Yes. My name is Lysera of Thalora." Alex nearly stumbled. He had heard of Thalora in briefings back on Earth, a powerful star kingdom respected and feared across the galaxy. To sit beside one of its royals, let alone walk with her, was beyond anything he had imagined. Why? Why would a princess talk to me? He asked honestly. Lysera finally turned her gaze to him. Because you are human. The words made him frown. That doesn't sound like much of a reason. It is reason enough, she replied calmly. Then she added, Your kind is new to the stars. Many here think you do not belong, but I have studied humans. You are different. Alex raised an eyebrow. Different how? Lysera stopped walking. She faced him fully now, her silver eyes focused, sharp. You survive, she said. When logic says you should not. When odds are against you, when stronger forces rise to crush you, humans find a way. That is why I chose you. Her words sank deep into Alex's mind. He did not know how to respond. Before he could, a voice called out from behind. So it is true. Alex. And Lysera turned. A group of alien students stood in the corridor, their gazes cold. At the front was a tall warrior with blue armor-like skin, his eyes burning with challenge. The princess of Thalora sits with a human, the warrior said, his voice filled with contempt. An untested, fragile creature from a young world. The other students chuckled, their eyes fixed on Alex. Lysera did not flinch. Do you question my choice, Varrock? The warrior sneered. I question why one such as you would lower herself. The academy is for the strong. The human will only shame himself. Alex clenched his fists, but stayed silent. He had learned enough in life to know that snapping back would only make things worse. Lysera's voice remained calm, but it carried an edge of steel. Perhaps you will see his worth in time, or perhaps you will see your own arrogance. Varrock's eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, towering over Alex. Then let us test him. Alex's pulse quickened. He wasn't sure what Varrock meant, but the challenge in his tone was clear. Lysera raised her hand slightly, her calm never breaking. There will be trials enough. Do not mistake cruelty for strength. Varrock smirked, then turned away, his followers leaving with him. But Alex could feel their eyes on him even as they walked off. When the corridor was quiet again, Alex exhaled, slowly. They hate me already. They fear you, Lysera corrected softly, though they may not admit it. Alex shook his head. Fear me? I can barely even find a seat. Lysera gave the faintest smile. That was before. Now you sit beside me. Her words left Alex speechless. As they walked on, he realized something. Sitting next to Princess Lysera had already changed everything. Whether he liked it or not, his presence was no longer invisible. He was no longer just the lone human at the academy. He was the human the princess had chosen, and that meant eyes would be on him from now on, both friendly and hostile. The morning sun of Vayara Prime shone through the tall glass walls of the academy. Alex Carter stood among hundreds of alien students gathered in the wide training grounds. The air buzzed with tension, as if everyone knew that today would be different. This was the day of their first test. The instructors stood in a line, each one tall, disciplined, and cold in their gaze. At the center was the crimson-clad instructor Alex had seen in the Great Hall. His name was Commander Draxel, a veteran of countless wars, his presence heavy like iron. You have entered this academy to prove yourselves, Draxel said, his voice sharp enough to cut through the restless crowd. Words and titles mean nothing here. Only action will decide who belongs and who does not. Alex swallowed hard. His stomach felt heavy, but he kept his face steady. Draxel raised a hand and the ground beneath them shifted. Panels opened, revealing wide combat arenas. Each arena was a circle of metallic floor surrounded by glowing barriers. Inside, strange. Machines rose from hidden compartments. Training drones built for speed and strength. Your first test, Draxel continued, is combat readiness. You will enter the arenas in pairs. You will face drones programmed to push you to your limit. Fail to adapt, and you will be eliminated. Survive, and you move forward. The students shifted uneasily. Many looked eager, others nervous. Alex could feel their eyes on him again, waiting for him to stumble, waiting for him to prove them right about humans being weak. The first pairs were called. Alien students stepped into the arenas, their forms graceful, strong, confident. Drones appeared, humming with energy, and the fights began. The air filled with flashes of light, sparks, and the sounds of metal striking against shields and armor. Some students defeated the drones quickly, showing skill and strength. Others struggled, barely managing to hold their ground. Alex watched carefully, studying every movement. He knew he couldn't outmatch most of these aliens in raw power. His only chance was to learn, to see patterns, to adapt. Finally, Draxel's voice called out, "Human! Alex Carter! Step forward!" The crowd stirred. Whispers spread quickly, curious and mocking. Alex felt his pulse quicken, but he forced his legs to move. He stepped into the arena, the metallic floor cool beneath his boots. The glowing barrier rose around him, sealing him inside. Draxel looked at his datapad, then called the second name. Varrock of Dravath. A murmur spread instantly. Alex froze. Varrock, the same alien warrior who had mocked him in the corridor, stepped forward, a confident smirk on his face. His blue armor-like skin gleamed under the light, his tall figure radiating strength. Alex's chest tightened. He had wanted time to prepare, to face someone less dangerous. But fate had decided otherwise. Varrock entered the arena, his eyes never leaving Alex. "Now we see the truth," he said quietly, his voice dripping with contempt. The drones activated. Two mechanical figures rose from the floor, their limbs sharp and fast, their sensors glowing red. The signal sounded. The test began. Varrock moved first, charging forward with powerful strikes. His blows smashed into the drones with crushing force. Sparks flew as he tore through them like a storm. His strength was undeniable. Alex, meanwhile, barely dodged the first strike aimed at him. The drone was fast, faster than he expected. He ducked, rolled, and scrambled away as its metallic arm sliced through the air where his head had been. The crowd laughed. "The human runs!" someone shouted. Alex ignored them. He focused on surviving. The drone attacked again, its movements sharp and relentless. Alex blocked with his training shield, the impact rattling his arm. He stumbled, but instead of standing his ground, he moved with the force, spinning to the side. The drone staggered, slightly, its momentum carrying it forward. Alex's eyes widened. That was it. He couldn't overpower the drone, but he could outthink it. He kept moving, letting the drone attack, then dodging at the last moment. Each time the machine overextended, its sensors recalibrating. Slowly, Alex began to predict its rhythm. He wasn't stronger, but he was faster in thought. Meanwhile, Varrock had already crushed his drone, ripping its metallic chest apart. He turned toward Alex with a mocking grin. "Struggling already?" Alex didn't answer. He waited for the next strike, then ducked under the drone's arm and slammed his shield into its leg joint. Sparks erupted, and the machine stumbled. The crowd went silent for a moment. Alex pressed the advantage. He struck again, not with brute force, but with precision, aiming at weak spots. at the gaps he had observed during its movements. Each strike slowed the drone until finally it collapsed in a shower of sparks. The arena fell quiet. Alex stood there, breathing hard, sweat running down his face, but still standing. The silence broke into murmurs, surprise, curiosity, even a few nods of respect. Varroc's smile faded. He stepped closer, glaring down at Alex. "You were lucky." Alex met his eyes. His voice was calm, steady. "No, I was ready." For a moment, the two locked stares, tension sharp in the air. Then Draxel's voice cut through. "Both pass." The barriers lowered. The test was over. Alex stepped out of the arena, his legs shaky but his heart steady. He had survived. Not by being the strongest, but by refusing to give up, by using his mind where muscle failed. As he walked back to the crowd, he caught sight of Lysera. She was watching him, her silver eyes steady, her expression unreadable. But when he passed her, she gave the faintest nod, small, but enough to fill him with renewed strength. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Alex felt something shift. He wasn't just the lone human anymore. He was a contender, and the others were beginning to see it too. The training grounds had grown louder after the combat test. Students talked excitedly about the matches, comparing strengths and weaknesses, boasting about victories. Yet, in the middle of all that noise, one name kept rising in their whispers: the human. Alex Carter walked quietly through the halls, his arms still sore from the fight. He had passed the test, but instead of relief, he felt the weight of new attention. Some aliens now looked at him with curiosity, others with a grudging respect. But many still looked with scorn, refusing to believe his success was more than luck, and among them was Varroc. The tall warrior had not spoken again after the match, but his burning stare had followed Alex since then. It was not the look of someone defeated. It was the look of someone who had been challenged and now sought revenge. The next day, the students gathered again, this time in the strategy chambers. Wide tables lit up with holographic maps of alien worlds, starships, and battlefields. The test was different now. Not about strength, but about the mind. "War is not only fought with weapons," Commander Draxel said as he paced across the chamber. "It is fought with choices, with strategy, with wit. Today you will be placed in groups. Each group will face a scenario. You must plan, adapt, and survive." Groups were quickly assigned. To Alex's unease, he found himself placed in the same group as Varroc. When their table lit up, the scenario appeared. A ruined colony under siege, enemy ships circling overhead, civilians trapped inside. Their task was to plan a rescue. Immediately, Varroc took charge. His voice was commanding, his confidence overwhelming. "We strike directly. We smash through the defenses, crush the enemy, and take the colony back by force." The other group members nodded quickly. None wanted to argue with him, but Alex frowned. "That will get the civilians killed," he said carefully. Varroc's eyes narrowed. "And what would you do, human?" "Run and hide." Alex kept his voice calm. "No. I would distract them. Use smaller moves to pull their attention away, then guide the civilians out while they're focused on the wrong target." Varroc slammed his hand against the table. "Coward's plan! Weakness!" "It's survival," Alex replied. "If we throw ourselves at them head-on, we lose everyone. But if we're clever, we save more lives." The room grew tense. Students at other tables glanced over, sensing the rising conflict. Lysera, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. "The human is right. Victory is not always measured by destruction. Sometimes it is measured by what is preserved." Her voice silenced the group. Even Varroc froze, though his glare never left Alex. In the end, the strategy test ended with Alex's plan chosen. The simulation played out, and while not perfect, It saved more civilians than Varroc's brute force approach. Draxel watched quietly, his expression unreadable, but Alex thought he saw the faintest sign of approval in the commander's eyes. That evening, Alex sat alone in the academy gardens, trying to find peace. The gardens were vast, filled with glowing plants from distant worlds, their colors shifting gently in the night air. But peace did not last. Varrock appeared, his heavy steps echoing against the stone path. His eyes burned with fury. "You humiliated me today," he growled. Alex stood slowly, his body tense. "I only gave my opinion. The simulation proved it worked." Varrock stepped closer, towering over him. "You are nothing, a fragile creature from a forgotten world. Yet you dare to stand in my place, to defy me before the others." Alex clenched his fists, but he did not step back. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded. "I didn't come here to humiliate anyone. I came here to prove humans belong, and I won't step aside just because you don't like it." For a long moment, the two locked eyes. The garden was silent except for the faint hum of glowing flowers. Then Lysera's voice cut through the tension. "Enough." Both turned. The princess stood nearby, her silver hair catching the starlight. She walked forward with quiet authority. "Varrock," she said firmly, "strength is not proven by crushing those weaker. It is proven by facing challenges worth your effort. If Alex is as weak as you claim, then why do you fear him?" Varrock stiffened, his jaw tight. For once, he had no reply. With a low growl, he turned and stormed off into the shadows. Alex exhaled, only now realizing how tightly he had been holding his breath. He glanced at Lysera. "You didn't have to step in." "I did," she replied calmly, "because this rivalry will only grow, and you must be ready when it does." Alex frowned. "Ready for what?" She looked at him with those steady, bright eyes. "For the trial that truly matters. This academy is not just about training. It is about proving to the galaxy which species deserve to lead. And you, Alex Carter, will be tested more than anyone here." Alex felt the weight of her words. He wanted to argue, to say he was just one human trying to survive. But deep down, he knew she was right. He sat back on the stone bench, staring at the glowing plants around them. He had only been here a short time, yet already he had made an enemy in Varrock and a strange, powerful ally in Lysera. The shadows of rivalry were closing in, and the next trial would decide whether he could rise above them or be crushed under their weight. The sky above the academy darkened as storm clouds gathered, though the air was clear of rain. It was not weather. It was the preparation of the trial. Giant machines shifted across the training grounds, reshaping the area into something entirely new. Alex Carter stood among the students, his heart beating fast. Every face around him carried the same tension. This was no ordinary test. Commander Draxel had announced it at dawn. "The great trial begins today. The trial will test more than your strength or cleverness," Draxel had told them, his voice cold and powerful. "It will test your endurance, your loyalty, your will to survive. You will be placed into teams. Your task is simple: survive the environment, overcome the dangers, and complete the mission." Alex swallowed. Simple, Draxel had said, but nothing about this academy was ever simple. When the teams were called, Alex's name was read alongside Princess Lysera's. Relief spread through him. She had stood by him since the first day. But as the rest of the team names appeared on the glowing board, his relief faded. Varrock was on their team. The tall warrior scowled as their eyes met. Alex could almost feel the hostility burning from him. This trial would not only be about survival, it would be about trust, and Alex doubted Varrock had any for him. Soon the students were transported into the artificial environment, the academies, Technology was powerful, able to create entire landscapes within a vast dome. When Alex stepped through the shimmering portal, he found himself in a world of jagged cliffs, dark forests, and rivers that glowed faintly under the false sky. It felt real, too real. The air was cold, the ground uneven, and strange sounds echoed through the trees. Draxel's voice came through their comms. "Your mission: reach the signal tower at the far side of this zone. Hostile drones and traps have been placed throughout. If you fall, you fail. Only teams who reach the tower together will pass." Alex adjusted his pack. Together, he thought. That was the hardest part. Their team began moving. Lysera walked at the front, calm and focused. Varrock stayed close behind, his sharp eyes scanning for threats. Alex followed, trying to keep pace. The other two members of the team were silent, keeping their distance from the human. Hours passed as they navigated the harsh terrain. At first, the challenges were simple: drones swooping from the trees, traps snapping up from the ground. Varrock smashed through most of them with brute force, his strength clearing the path. But as the dangers grew, brute force was no longer enough. The team reached a canyon where the bridge had collapsed. Jagged rocks jutted out far below, and the only way across was a series of unstable platforms. Varrock grunted. "We jump." The others hesitated. Alex studied the platforms, noticing how some tilted dangerously, while others were more stable. He shook his head. "If you just jump, you'll fall. Look, step on the heavier ones first, then use the lighter ones near the end. It will balance the path." Varrock scoffed. The human guesses again, but Lysera's calm voice cut through. "We try his way." One by one they crossed. The platforms wobbled, but by following Alex's plan, they made it across safely. Even Varrock, though he refused to look at Alex, could not deny the result. The deeper they went, the harsher the trial became. Drones attacked in larger groups, moving with coordinated patterns. At one point, the team was surrounded in the forest. Varrock roared, smashing one drone with a powerful strike, but more closed in. The others fought desperately. Alex ducked and dodged, remembering the rhythm from his earlier fight. He noticed. The drones always paused a fraction of a second after striking, their sensors glowing brighter before they attacked again. "Hit them during the pause," Alex shouted. The team adjusted, striking with precision. One by one, the drones fell until silence returned to the forest. Breathing heavily, Alex leaned against a tree. His arms ached, but he was still standing. Lysera looked at him and gave a small nod of approval. Even the other team members, who had ignored him before, now looked at him with something different, perhaps respect. Varrock, however, only scowled deeper. Night fell inside the dome, though Alex knew it was artificial. The team made camp near the river. The glowing water cast a soft light across their faces. Everyone sat in silence, too tired for talk. Finally, Varrock broke it. "This is weakness," he muttered. "Resting while the mission waits." Alex looked at him. "If we don't rest, we won't make it to the tower. Even you can't fight forever." Varrock's glare was sharp, but Lysera spoke before he could answer. "The human is right. Survival is not a sprint. It is endurance. We rest." Varrock turned away with a growl, but said no more. Alex lay back, staring at the false stars above. He wondered how real they were, if they copied an actual sky from some far-off world. His body ached, but his mind was awake. He thought of Earth, of how fragile humanity seemed in comparison to the galaxy, and yet here he was, proving step by step that humans were more than anyone believed. The final challenge came at dawn. The team reached the last stretch, a wide valley where the signal tower stood in the distance. But between them and victory was a massive swarm of drones, more than they had faced before. Varrock grinned fiercely, Finally, a real fight. He charged forward before anyone could stop him, tearing into the swarm with raw power. But the drones adjusted quickly, surrounding him. His strikes slowed as they overwhelmed him. The rest of the team fought hard, but the numbers were too great. For a moment it seemed they would all be crushed. Then Alex saw it, the pattern again. The drones moved in waves, leaving gaps when they regrouped. If they timed it right, they didn't have to fight them all. "Don't fight them directly," Alex shouted. "Move through the gaps! Head straight for the tower!" The team hesitated, but Lysera's voice rang out. "Follow him!" Together, they pushed forward, weaving through the swarm. Alex guided them, calling out the timing. Drones lunged and struck, but the group slipped through step by step until the tower loomed ahead. Varrock, trapped in the middle of the swarm, roared in frustration. But even he realized the only way out was to follow Alex's lead. With a final burst of strength, he broke free and ran with the team. At last, they reached the tower. The beacon lit up, signaling their success. The swarm faded, the dome around, them dissolving into light. The trial was over. Back in the academy grounds, the students gathered as Draxel announced the results. Only half the teams had reached the tower. Alex's team stood among the survivors. Draxel's gaze lingered on Alex. "Unexpected," he said coldly, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of acknowledgement. Varrock stood apart, silent and furious, though his pride could not erase the truth. Without Alex, they would have failed. Lysera stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. "You see now?" she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "Humans are not to be dismissed. They are to be watched and learned from." Alex stood quietly, the weight of her words sinking in. He had not just survived the great trial, he had proven that humanity had a place among the stars. The academy grounds were quiet after the great trial. The students who survived walked with weary pride, while those who failed looked down, ashamed. But for Alex Carter, the human among aliens, the silence carried something else. Change. He had gone from being ignored to being noticed, from being doubted to being respected. Yet, as he stood at the edge of the training yard, staring out at the stars above, he knew the journey was not over. The real battles had only just begun. That evening, the students gathered in the grand hall. Tall pillars lined the chamber, glowing softly with energy. The ceiling showed a projection of distant galaxies, spinning like jewels in the dark. It was a celebration, not of victory, but of survival. Long tables were set for every species. Food of strange colors and shapes filled the plates. Creatures with wings, scales, or horns spoke in deep voices, laughing and sharing stories of the trial. Alex entered hesitantly. He saw Lysera, the princess, seated at the high table among her people. Her silver hair glowed under the starlight projection, and her presence commanded the room. Around her, nobles and cadets of her race spoke eagerly. Yet when she spotted Alex standing alone at the far side, she raised her hand. "Human," she called. Her voice carried across the hall, quieting some of the chatter. "Come, sit here." The room grew still. Many eyes turned toward him. Some were filled with surprise, others with doubt. Varrock, sitting a few tables away, clenched his jaw in silence. Alex froze for a moment. He had expected respect, maybe polite nods after the trial, but not this. The princess was asking him, no, insisting, that he sit beside her. Slowly, he walked forward. Every step echoed louder than it should have, like the ground itself was watching. Finally, he reached the high table. Lysera pulled out the chair. Beside her, a gesture no one else at the academy would dare receive. "Sit," she said softly, though her words held the weight of command. Alex sat. At first, there was silence. The nobles glanced at each other, some frowning, some whispering. A few cadets looked outright angry, but Lysera ignored them. She poured a glowing drink into Alex's cup and handed it to him as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "You led us to victory," she said. "Without you, we would not have passed the great trial." Alex hesitated. "It wasn't just me. Everyone fought." Lysera shook her head. "No, you saw what we could not. You acted when others hesitated. That is leadership. That is wisdom." Her words struck deeper than she realized. Alex had always been just another pilot back on Earth, one among thousands. Here, in this place of giants and warriors, his voice had changed the outcome of the trial. For the first time, he felt like more than just a survivor. He felt like he mattered. The feast continued. Slowly, the whispers around them faded as others accepted what they saw. Some still frowned, but others began to watch Alex with curiosity rather than disdain. At one point, Varrock rose from his seat and walked over. His tall frame cast a long shadow across the table. Many expected him to challenge Alex, but instead he placed one hand on the table and growled low. "You are reckless, human. Weak in body, fragile. But—" He paused, glaring hard into Alex's eyes. "You see patterns. You think when others only fight. That saved us." It was not praise, not fully, but it was as close as Varrock could give. He turned sharply and walked back to his table, his pride refusing to say more. Alex blinked, surprised. Lysera smiled faintly. "He will never admit it aloud, but you earned his respect." Alex gave a small laugh. "That's a strange way of showing it." Lysera leaned closer, her eyes bright. "Respect among warriors is never gentle. It is forged in fire, not given in peace." Later, when the feast ended and the hall emptied, Lysera led Alex outside to the balcony. The night air was cool and the stars stretched endlessly above them. For a long moment they stood in silence, looking at the galaxy. Ships glimmered in the distance, tiny sparks moving across the void. Finally, Alex spoke. "Back on Earth, I always thought humans were small. Just one species on one planet. Out here, surrounded by all this," he gestured at the stars. "We feel even smaller." Lysera turned her gaze to him. "You are not small. You are different. And sometimes, difference changes the course of history." Her words carried a weight he could not ignore. As the quiet deepened, Lysera looked at him thoughtfully. "Do you know why I asked you to sit beside me today?" Alex shrugged. "To prove a point?" "More than that," she said softly. "Because in this academy, seats are not just chairs, they are symbols. Who you sit with shows who you stand with. And today I showed everyone that I stand with you." Her hand rested lightly on the railing, close to his. Alex felt a strange warmth, not just from her words, but from what they meant. For the first time, he was not the outsider. He was part of something greater. The days that followed were different. Students who once ignored him now greeted him. Some asked him questions about Earth, curious about his world. Others challenged him in training, no longer seeing him as weak prey, but as a rival worth testing. Even Varrock, though still harsh, no longer dismissed him. He tested Alex's ideas during exercises, sometimes even following his advice without argument. Alex had carved his place, not by strength, but by being human, by seeing, thinking, and daring when others did not. One evening, after another long day of training, Alex returned to the hall. This time, no one questioned where he sat. The seat beside Lysera was waiting for him, as if it had always been his. As he sat down, Lysera glanced at him with a calm smile. "See? It no longer surprises them." Alex grinned slightly. "Guess they're getting used to me." "Not used to you," she corrected. "Respecting you." Her words sank deep into his heart. That night, As the hall grew quiet, Alex looked around at the alien cadets, the shimmering walls, the galaxy beyond. He thought back to the very beginning, when he was just looking for a seat in the mess hall, lost and ignored. He had found more than a seat. He had found a place. And when the human pilot sat down beside the alien princess, no one in the galaxy doubted it anymore.